Hi everyone, my name is Marion and I'm the Interim Managing Director for Oxford Bus Company and Travel. So I must confess that I am someone who's going to talk to you positively about buses. So how can we travel to where we want to get to in Oxford in a way that's good for health and good for the climate? Well, buses need to play a really important part in that. Obviously I'm going to say that, but I'm going to give you some reasons as to why that is. First of all, buses are great for physical health, but a bus journey is an active travel journey. And lots of research has been done which shows that people who take bus journeys generally are getting 20 to 28 minutes more exercise a day than people who don't travel by bus and commute by car. And that's really important because Public Health England have done research that says a third of UK adults don't get their 30 minutes of recommended exercise every week. So we've tried to incorporate that in some of our journey planners and things that we do on our websites and apps to show people if you take this journey, these are the sort of steps that you're going to take. Because quite often with active travel, we do things walking, we do things cycling. We see ourselves as an active travel mode just like those, and we complement each other. Buses are also great for mental health. Buses are a really important thing in the community. Lots of people in the UK have been suffering with loneliness, and I think with the pandemic we've seen a real increase in that, lots more isolation, working from home. Research has shown that also increases things like the risk of mortality. And a large number of people in the UK suffer from loneliness. 13% of people in the UK feel lonely every day, for example. Surveys have shown that bus users generally feel less lonely, and that when travelling by bus, people have quite often spoken to people they've met for the first time. They've taken the bus journey just to meet, to get out and get some physical human contact. And we've done some initiatives like that around doing things like Chatty Bus, which we're going to be bringing back quite soon. Obviously, we're going to do that for the last couple of years with the pandemic and social distancing. Try and encourage people who might be feeling a bit nervous about getting out and about, may have suffered a loss, bereavement, or may be dealing with loneliness to come out and speak to others. So buses are a really important part of the community for that as well. Buses are good for the climate, so the bus network is running, it's there now. Any incremental journey that happens on the bus network is a really, really low level of CO2. And yes, electric cars are important, it's really important to decarbonise, but even with diesel buses, those bus journeys you take are generally a lot more CO2 efficient than electric cars. At the moment, a lot of carbon is being used on the extraction of minerals that go into electric cars and indeed disposal of them at the end of their life cycle. So although electric cars are zero emission at the point of use, they're not zero emission in their whole life cycle, they're only marginally less emitting than diesel petrol cars. Obviously they're good for air quality within the city and that's important for public health, so we do need to move to electric cars where we can, like Emily stated, and also we need to be doing the same with buses. That brings me on to electric buses. We bid for loads and loads of funding and worked really hard on a bid for bringing 159 electric buses to Oxford City with Stagecoach and the County Council. We have managed to be awarded some funding, but it is conditional upon speeding buses up in the city because at the moment buses in the city are unsustainably slow. And therefore, to unlock that investment, it's an 80 million scheme in total. We've managed to get 33.8 million from the government. We've also managed to get a bit of money from the County Council, 6 million in total. But the lion's share of the investment, over 40 million, is coming from the operators. So for us to take the fleet we've got, get rid of a large chunk of it and replace it with electric buses, there's got to be a business case as there is with any business. We do want to do this, but we can't invest in these really expensive assets for them to sit in traffic, not moving, and not getting people where they want to go. That's the definition of madness. So if successful, we've got plans to work with Low Carbon Hub. I'm a director of Low Carbon Hub as well in my sort of spare time, although I think this is my spare time as well, so not quite sure what I'm doing at the moment. But if successful, we are going to work with them to buy lots of sustainable energy from local solar farms. So we've got some heads of terms in place there, and obviously I'm really excited about that because I think that's going to be great for the environment. But as I say, the scheme is conditional and we are at a crunch point. The cost buses up in Oxford at the moment are not as good as they should be, not as good as they could be. As I said, buses are too slow. We are seeing buses slow down regularly. I think recently with some of the developments in East Oxford, we've seen a tidal wave of additional congestion. My scheduling manager, who works for me, has been with the company 40 years, and he's told me that's the worst single tidal wave he's seen impacting services in the 40 years that it's been there. So we are supportive of LTMs, we are supportive of 20-mile-an-hour zones. We do believe that cycling, walking infrastructure and all that needs to be improved. It's all part of the jigsaw that makes our sustainable travel network work and be good for the climate, good for health, good for the city, good for place making. But if we're doing bits of the jigsaw without other bits of the jigsaw, the problem is then we end up making some of these things over here a lot worse, and if we're not careful, the whole jigsaw's not going to get put together, which is where we are. You may have seen me sort of nattering on that BBC News earlier in the week. So OCC has got some big plans. The plans, as Emily said, are quite rigid. There are some plans for bus gates, there are some plans for a workplace parking levy. From our perception, we're not really wedded to any of these, any particular plans. All we want to see is a speeding up of the buses by 10%. We know the art of the possible. We've seen in the pandemic what can happen with free flow conditions. When lockdown was on, the buses sped up by sort of 25%. So we're not saying all traffic in the city needs to be removed. There are those journeys like carers, like some of those people have to make deliveries. Those kinds of people are going to need to continue to operate through the city. But what we want to get rid of is those journeys that are going across the city just to run through, go on to other areas. So another thing about buses that are not good is orbital journeys around the city. Buses are really good for making radial journeys into the city centre, or maybe even sometimes across the city, although with the pedestrianised streets they can be quite slow. We did have a go at working on that with the picking up service that we ran for a couple of years prior to the pandemic. That was very popular. Did get a lot of support from business, got a lot of support from customers as well, but no support from the county council. Unfortunately, that service was cancelled. So we believe that is a really important part of the mix. If we're going to make this thing happen, those sort of smaller pockets of journeys are going to need to be catered for by something that's different than a big conventional bus on 5-10 minute frequencies. You are going to need this kind of flexible tool to make the whole system work. So in summary, buses are a great way to travel in a healthy, community-friendly and environmentally friendly way. We've got a once-in-a-generation opportunity in Oxford at the moment to improve them with this funding, because we're not going to get this funding again. If we mess this up, there's lots of other cities in the queue. They're going to be behind us. They've already been rejected once. They're not going to be rejected again. So if we screw this up, we'll be down to the back of the queue. So as I say, the funding's at risk. If we don't crack on with these plans, we need pressure from the county council to speed things up, and also to be open about what their plans are. Maybe open to discussion, like Emily said. At the moment, we've raised things like a congestion charge that we think could be a really good tool, as Emily said. But so far, the county hasn't been willing to consider that. Like I say, from our point of view, we're not too stuck on what the measures are. We just want to see vehicles sped up. We do need some way of raising revenue to fund policy initiatives, because within Oxford, all of our buses are provided commercially. We don't have any funding for public transport from the county council. It's really unlike many other counties, especially rural shire counties like we have in Oxfordshire. So we do need some form of charge to raise revenue for things that aren't commercial. Demand responsive would be one such service. It's never going to be a service that's going to wash its face and cover all of its costs with revenue, but it is needed part of the whole mix. So we do need to put some pressure on the county council on that. At the moment, their view seems to be demand responsive isn't something they want to support, because of the view that it's never going to be commercially viable, which I find a bit crackers, because I don't think any tram services have ever been commercially viable either, but they act as a policy tool.